All right. Are we live? Let me just check if we are live before we begin with the lesson. Right. I think that we are live now. Okay. Very good morning, everybody. A very good morning. Thank you for joining in. Um, right. So today I am back with another round of Parajumbles practice, where I've curated a set of questions for us to go over this morning. Before we delve into that, allow me to give you a small introduction to the Unacademy platform, the Unacademy portal. So, Unacademy is perhaps India's largest learning platform today when it comes to learning for competitive exams. This particular YouTube channel is for management exams like your CAT, GMAT, NMAT, ZAT, and the likes. Right? I am Prankur Arora. I'll be taking you on this journey of learning. I've been in the learning industry for the past couple of years. I've been a trainer and a coach. I've consulted with various organizations like Marico, Interglobe, PGCIL, FMC Corp, and the likes. I'm also a published author. I wrote this book called It's Not Funny. Um, It's Not Funny is a work of satirical fiction, right? Consists of a lot of existential humor. So if you're fond of if you're fond of reading fiction, or if you're fond of, dark sardonic humor, then be sure to check it out. It was even positively reviewed by comedic legends of our country, legendary people like Papa CJ, Viswapati Sarkar, those guys. And I hold advanced certifications in facilitation from an American organization called Leadership Management International. LMI is perhaps the world's largest organization working in the space of transformational leadership. Um, and I run a production house called Tamasha Entertainment where we do theatrical and film engagement. So that's pretty much about me. And welcome aboard this journey of learning. I'll be taking you through various aspects of verbal ability and reading comprehension on this journey. Today's lesson is, specially curated for Parajumbles practice. So there are quite a lot of features that add to the pedagogy that an academy has devised. The pedagogy, makes you the pedagogy gives you daily live classes. Where all interaction between the learners and the educator, it happens in real time, where you can engage in discussions, ask doubts, answer questions through the feature of live polls. All of it happens in real time. We also conduct regular live tests and quizzes, and the idea of that is to help you evaluate your performance, help you gain some perspective about where you stand in your learning journey, right? Understand what you're doing well and what you're doing not so well, and how you can improve over it. So, that perspective comes from the mock tests and quizzes that we undertake. Plus, all the courses on the platform, they are structured courses in line with the exam syllabus to, help you get the best of everything. Plus, with one subscription, you get unlimited access to anything and everything. All kinds of live and recorded courses that you can access from the comfort of any of your devices. There are quite a lot of educators on the platform. All these educators are mighty successful people who've mentored aspirants into various top tier business schools like your IIMs, MDIs, XLRIs, and the likes. Um, Live classes, you can experience all these live classes for free. As I mentioned, you can experience all live classes on the platform for free before deciding whether you want to, subscribe to the platform to avail additional benefits or not. New batches, new courses, they keep on going live. Plus, a really cool thing is that language is never a barrier. We've got educators who teach in vernacular languages as well, right? So, all so if you're not as comfortable with Hindi or English, I'm pretty sure you can get through to an educator who'll be teaching in a regional language that you were brought upon. Also, an academy gives you the ownership of devising your own learning journey, right? You decide what are the kind of courses you want to enroll into, who are the educators you want to be learning from. All that ownership is on you. All we do is we send you those timely reminders and push notifications so that you don't miss out on anything you set your eyes on. As I was saying, all interaction, it happens on the platform in real time. And we don't conduct question answers normally. We have live polls where you participate in the polls and you compete for a place on the leaderboard. That is, broadcast to anybody and everybody attending the lesson. And I said, as I mentioned, with our mock tests and quizzes, we furnish detailed analysis. We give you insights like how much time you're spending on every question, what are your section wise scores, topic wise scores. Plus, you'll see that I'll be scribbling a lot of stuff throughout the lesson, and all these class notes with the educator annotations, they're made available to you once you subscribe to the platform. Talking of subscription, these are the various models that Unacademy works on. We can clearly see that as the time period of subscription goes up, the cost of subscription per month is going down dramatically, right? Plus, if you use my name Prankur, you get an extra 10% off on any of the subscriptions that you're going for. Having said that, let's begin the lesson for the day. This is the first Parajumbles question of the day. Take your time and then hit me up on the chat with your answer. Okay, Anushka says one. All right. Um, all right. Let's look at it. Right. So the trick to solving this one is to kind of let me just take you through the statements first. Indeed, Indian policymakers find themselves in a predicament thanks to the continued monetary easing by some nations and the shrinkage in world trade. All right. In this context, a fund-starved country like India uh, will do well to focus on FDI rather than get unduly worried about foreign institutional investment, which will have its ebb and flow depending on the environment outside. In what context? That is the question mark, right? With everyone waiting for the other to act first, the onus is definitely on the political bosses to devise quick solutions to accelerate the economy. Okay, given this new normal kind of an environment, they will have to look at ways to protect the Indian economy from external vicissitudes. Given this new normal kind of an environment, what is this new normal referring to? Right? So the trick is to identify what is the context, what is this new normal, right? Uh, and right, uh, what is setting context, what is setting context in this entire paragraph, what is the likely conclusion, right? So the idea is that the first sentence of this paragraph cannot be C, right? With everyone waiting for the other to act first, everyone other, who are these people, right? Not setting context. This statement C is not setting context, so it cannot be the first sentence. B. now we know for a fact that B and D can be linked, but will it be BD or it will be DB, right? That is another question. Anushka thinks it has to be DB. The link has to be DB, right? And I have to agree the link has to be DB. As to why? Because um, D is talking about the new normal. Given this new normal kind of environment, they will have to look at ways to protect the Indian economy from external vicissitudes. And B is kind of, giving us a possible solution that in this context, a fund starved country will do well to focus on FDI rather than this, right? So D has to precede B. B follows D, right? So this cannot be it, and neither can this be it. Obviously, we cannot begin with C, so the only option left is option 1, where A is setting context, right? A is setting context. New normal is talking about this, that Indian policymakers find themselves in a predicament thanks to continued monetary easing by some nations and the shrinkage. B follows D because B is talking about a possible solution to the vicissitudes, and C is the concluding sentence. So good job, Anushka. Well done. Next question. Right, guys, another 30 seconds and then I'll move into discussing this one. Anushka thinks it's 4. All right. So, the idea again is to identify the links here. What are the links in these sentences? Right? Let's read the sentences one by one. With vaccination arguably our strongest and most cost effective defense against infectious disease, urbanization is already presenting challenges. It used to be the case that 1 in 5 children missing out on a full course of even the most basic vaccines lived in remote rural areas. Without strong health systems in place, the higher the population density, the more difficult it becomes to prevent and control outbreaks, and not just because of the increased risk of contagion. Today, we are increasingly discovering that many of these hardest to reach children are in marginalized urban communities, right in the heart of cities, often hiding in plain sight. So we know for a fact that D is basically talking about the present situation. B is talking about the past, right? So and all our options also giving us that B will come before D. D will follow B, right? Now the trick is to identify what should be our statement number 1 and what should be our statement number 2, right? Look at sentences A and C. We know B and D go together. Let's look at A and C. Without strong health systems in place, the higher the population density, the more difficult it becomes to prevent and control outbreaks, and not just because of the increased risk of contagion. With vaccination, arguably our strongest and most cost effective defense against infectious disease, urbanization is already presenting some challenges, right? So, C, and plus then we have what? Then we have B, which is also talking about vaccine, right? It used to be the case that 1 in 5 children missing out on a full course of even the most basic vaccines lived in remote rural areas. We're talking about vaccination here, and then B is also talking about vaccines, right? But A is a more general sentence about vaccination. B is developing on it by giving us a detailed description. So A will precede B, right? That is why we'll eliminate this, and we need A and B to go together, so we'll eliminate this as well. We're left with option 1 and option 3. Now we have to figure out whether the sentence begins with C or the sentence ends with C. Sentence ends with C, or or the paragraph ends with C, or paragraph begins with C, right? Without strong health systems in place, the higher the population density, the more difficult it becomes to prevent and control outbreaks, and not just because of the increased risk of contagion, right? C cannot follow D because D is kind of, giving us a very benchmarking statement about what is happening today, right? C is a general context setting statement that, what, without these health systems in place, the higher population density, the more difficult it is, right? And then A develops on it by talking about vaccination. B develops on it further by having a specific take on vaccination. So the ideal, this thing, sequencing of these sentences would be C A B D, right? So option 3 will be the most viable option in this case. Next question. Okay, Shubhecha says option 2. All right, welcome to the lesson, Shubhecha. Right, I think you've gotten this one right. CADB is the most viable answer option here. Why? Because C sets context by telling us how jellyfish are better prepared than other marine life for the changing ocean environment, such as warmer temperatures, salinity changes, ocean acidification, and pollution. And then develops on it further by saying how can not only do they withstand impact of climate change, they can also, they also have the capacity to accelerate it. And then DNB tell us how they accelerate it. Number one, they release carbon rich feces and mucus that bacteria prefer to use for respiration, turning these bacteria into carbon dioxide factories. At the same time, was a hint for us that, B will definitely follow D. D is telling us how they accelerate climate change, and B develops on it. At the same time, they also consume plankton, which are a major means of taking carbon dioxide out of atmosphere. So CADB is the correct answer. Good job. Next question. Okay, okay. I think you've gotten this one right as well. Good job, Shubhecha. The trick to basically cracking this one was sentence B says nearly 20 years ago, right? So this is past, and sentence D talks about today, right? So D will definitely follow B. B is talking about the past, D is talking about today. So we can eliminate options 3 and 4. Now we had to identify whether A makes sense as a opening statement. Athletes may not be role models, but they are certainly digital writing lords. We know for a fact that the opening sentence of any paragraph has to be general. It cannot be a sweeping statement. It cannot be a very specific statement, right? This is not a general statement. This is a very specific statement, right? But they are certainly digital lightning rods. Make sense as a conclusion over an opening sentence to the paragraph. BD go together, we know that for a fact. C talks about how athletes might want the ability to make millions while still being able to crack off kilter and slightly offensive jokes without seeing the number of zeros in their paycheck affected. But that's not how it works. Athletes may not be role models, but they're certainly digital lightning rods, right? So A is kind of a sweeping statement or a follow up to what we are saying in C, right? So BDCA there makes the maximum sense. Good job, Shubhecha. Good job. Well done. Next question. A, B, C, D. All right, maybe. Okay, okay, okay. So let's approach this, a little deeply, because the answer is not A, B, C, D. The answer is um, C, B, D, A. All right, and I'll tell you why. Because let's just quickly read the sentences once more. According to scientists from NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory, the current melting of ice in Greenland is already causing the tilt to change at a rate of approximately 2.6 centimeter each year. While a natural event such as this, such as what? Such as what? What does this refer to? Such as this could bring about major changes to the climate. Some scientists are warning that there is a possibility for reverse feedback. So try and understand what the sentences are trying to tell us. Hi Mehul, welcome to the lesson. So the answer is option C. The answer is third and option 3 and not option 4. Um, the Earth's orbital tilt is said to vary between 22 and 25 degrees roughly every 41,000 years. In other words, instead of an orbital tilt causing climate change, current climate change in climate could end, end up causing changes in the Earth's axial tilt. So, understand what the paragraph is about, trying to tell us. The paragraph is trying to tell us that Earth's tilt changes and that causes climate change. At the same time, scientists are saying that even climate change could cause a tilt, right? There is a possibility for reverse feedback, and then they give us an example here. When it comes to Greenland, that Greenland is already causing the tilt to change. So firstly, paragraph establishes how tilt causes climate change, and then scientists say climate change can also cause tilt, and then they give us an example. This has to be the flow of the paragraph. That is why we begin with C, where it tells us orbital tilt is said to vary between this roughly every 41,000 years, while a natural event. What is a natural event? This is a natural event, right? So B has to follow C, because B is referring to the natural event that C is talking about, right? And then they talk about how some scientists are warning that there is a possibility for reverse feedback, right? Now they're explaining reverse feedback. In other words, right? So D has to follow C because D is explaining the reverse feedback of B. That, in other words, instead of a tilt causing climate change, change in climate could end up causing tilt. And then they give us an example. According to NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory, the current melting of ice in Greenland is already causing tilt to change at a rate of this. So that is why it will be CBDA. Right? I hope you understood the flow that I'm talking about. Sometimes it works well to understand the meaning of the paragraph. ठीक है? All right, next question. Anushka says option 2, CABD. Okay, let's wait for others to chip in as well. Becha says option 3 and Mehul says option 2 as well. So I think this one Shubhecha has gotten it right. It's bang on. Understand Mehul and Anushka. When you talk about option 2 being the answer, it begins with sentence C. In conveying this ceaseless ebb and flow of life. this refers to what? How can C be the opening sentence of the paragraph when there is ambiguity? We don't know what this is referring to, right? So that is why, and plus, see, A and D are linked. Why are they linked? One of the beauties of Leo Tolstoy's novel, War and Peace, is that it does not end when the war ends. ठीक है? D is telling us concluding it at the moment of heroic drama. What is the moment of heroic drama? When the war ends. War ending is the moment of heroic drama. Would have destroyed the integrity of the novel, right? That is why D will follow A. It ends instead. Now, D is talking about how concluding it at this moment would have destroyed integrity. So now we are telling how the novel ends. It ends instead when the hero gets married and settles down to a life of routine and freedom. And then we have C. See, B will follow D. Why? Because we are telling how the novel ends now. And then we'll have C. C says, in conveying this ceaseless ebb and flow of life, Tolstoy captures its very essence. I hope you've understood this. Right? I hope you've understood this, guys. Can I move on to the next question? So, the idea is that your opening sentence can never have ambiguity. You have to lay context and you have to see what sentences are linked with each other, right? Heroic drama talks about the ending of war. So, D has to follow A. And B has to follow D because B is telling us about how the novel ends instead. And then obviously C is like the concluding statement, where now we know what this refers to, right? So next question. Right. So Shubhesha says answer should be one. Okay. All right. Sorry, I got disconnected there for a bit. I think you've gotten it right. DACB should be the answer here. DACB is the correct answer, right? So we know for a fact we have the reference to different time periods. 5000 BC obviously comes after 8500 BC, uh, right? And the idea essentially here is that we are talking about how uh, they would do farming, and then there was another trick to solving this: what kind of labors bore fruit. If we figured out what labors we are talking about these labors that farmers moved down into the fertile river valleys of Mesopotamia and built dikes and ditches to irrigate the arid land. Their labors bore fruit. Surplus food freed some of the population from farming. So we know for a fact that B follows C, right? So that is how this was another trick to solving it. All right, so good job, Shubhecha. I think you've gotten this well. So I'll move on to the next question without further ado. CDBA is the correct answer. Well done, Shubhecha. You're getting every question right today. This is amazing. I'm really happy for you. So obviously the idea here was to we know for a fact that sentences D and B, they're kind of linked. D is talking about how a few decades earlier Athenian citizen soldiers had helped rout the Persian invaders of Greece, right? And B talks about that victory where, especially the Marathon, who fought and defeated Persian troops in the 490 BC Battle of Marathon, would be revered as Athens' greatest generation. Plus, A will follow DB. Why? Because long after their victory, what victory are we talking about? The victory that we are mentioning in sentences B and D, right? So, DBA is kind of a link. Plus, C sets context of the paragraph by talking about how Athens were already looking back with longing even in the mid 5th century BC, right? So C sets context, and then DB is talking about the victory, and A is basically talking about the feeling of that victory, right? Well done, well done. Proud of you. This is the last question of the day now. Okay, Subhecha says 3. BCAD is yet again the correct order here. Well done. BCAD is the correct order here. Well done, well done, well done. So the idea essentially here was that we had to figure out what this they refers to, right? They refers to the family of duck-billed dinosaurs known as Parasaurophilus had been at the center of paleoacoustic conversation. They are herbivorous creatures. Interestingly, most now then we are drawing a contrast between A and D. So A and D also had to go together as to why. We know BC is the link, but also AD had to go together. A talks about how most creatures, their softer organs and membranes tend to decompose, whereas when it comes to Parasaurolophus, it is a rarity in this regard. In what regard? Where when we talk about most creatures they decompose, but here they dedicate so much hard fossil friendly tissue to making noise. So that is why BC and AD, the both of them had to go together. And AD is kind of the conclusion. It cannot be the beginning of the paragraph because BC is setting context, right? So that is where option 3 is the correct answer. Good job, Shubhecha. So we're done with the Parajumbles practice for the day. I'll see you again tomorrow. Tomorrow morning again, same time. If you again, I'll ask you if you have something specific that you want to study tomorrow. We can do that. Otherwise, I'll return with the Parajumbles practice. Do you have something specific in mind where you can tell me if there's some doubts or there's some concept that you want to study? Otherwise, I'll continue with the Parajumbles practice. Right, then I'll be back tomorrow morning, 10 o'clock again, yet again, with another set of curated questions on Parajumbles. Alright, see you tomorrow. So, till then, stay safe, stay strong, stay mellow. Thank you for attending the lesson for the day.